Let me ask you something that most doctors never think to ask. What did you drink last night before bed? Because if your fasting blood sugar is stubbornly high every single morning, even when you're eating right, even when you're taking your medication, the answer to why might not be what you ate for dinner. It might be what you drank or didn't drink in the hour before you fell asleep. Here's what the research is now telling us. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism followed 147 adults over the age of 60 with type 2 diabetes for 12 weeks. The finding was clear. The right bedtime drink didn't raise fasting glucose. It lowered it by an average of 23 milligrams per deciliter. That's nearly half a percentage point off your HbA1c from one simple evening habit. Today, I'm going to give you 5 bedtime drinks that clinical science supports for lowering your morning blood sugar, and then I'm going to warn you about 3 drinks that are being sold specifically to diabetics, drinks that are quietly making your numbers worse while you sleep. Stay until the end, because number 1 on the warning list might be sitting in your refrigerator right now. Welcome back. I'm Dr. David Aid, and this channel exists for one reason: to give you clear, trustworthy, evidence-based health information so you can make smarter decisions about your own body. If you're new here, take a moment to subscribe. We cover topics like this every week. Practical, research-backed information designed specifically for adults who are serious about their health and longevity. Now, let's talk about blood sugar. If you have type 2 diabetes, or if you're managing prediabetes, you already know the frustration. You go to bed feeling good about the day. You ate well. You stayed away from the sweets. And then you wake up at 6 in the morning, check your glucose, and it's higher than it was when you went to sleep. What happened? You didn't eat anything. You were unconscious. And yet somehow your body found a way to raise your blood sugar overnight. This is one of the most confusing and demoralizing experiences for people managing diabetes, and most of the time, no one ever explains why it happens. So before we get to the drinks, let me take a few minutes to explain the physiology. Because once you understand what's happening in your body between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., everything else will make perfect sense. Here's the truth about your liver that most people never get told. Your liver is not a passive organ. It's active. It has memory. It responds to hormones. And at night, especially in people with type 2 diabetes, it can become a significant source of glucose, even when you haven't eaten a thing. Here's what happens. Under normal circumstances, your liver is supposed to stay relatively quiet while you sleep. It monitors blood sugar levels, and when things are stable, it holds off on releasing stored glucose. That's how it's supposed to work. But in type 2 diabetes, particularly as we get older, something changes. The communication between your liver and your hormones breaks down. Your liver becomes less sensitive to the signals telling it to stand down. And so, sometime around 3 in the morning, it starts releasing stored glucose into your bloodstream through a process called gluconeogenesis. That is why you can go to bed at 110 milligrams per deciliter and wake up at 148 without eating a single bite. Your liver staged what I like to call a glucose raid while you were unconscious, and it gets more complicated. There's also something called the dawn phenomenon. In the early morning hours, your body naturally releases a surge of hormones, cortisol, growth hormone, epinephrine, as part of waking you up. In people without diabetes, a simultaneous release of insulin keeps everything balanced. But in type 2 diabetes, insulin production is impaired, so those morning hormones push blood sugar up without anything to counteract them. The result? You wake up with elevated fasting glucose even on your best days. Now here's why all of this matters for what you drink before bed. The 5 drinks I'm about to share with you work on what I think of as 3 nighttime controls. The first control is liver suppression. Several of these drinks contain compounds that specifically slow down or inhibit that 3 a.m. liver glucose dump. They improve your liver's sensitivity to the signals that tell it to stay quiet. The second control is incretin activation. Incretin hormones, You may have heard of GLP-1, the hormone that medications like Ozempic work to imitate. Tell your pancreas to be ready for glucose and help keep your liver in check through the night. Certain nutrients consumed before bed can support this system naturally. The third control is sleep architecture. This one is critically underrated. Deep sleep, specifically the slow wave sleep that your body should be cycling through several times a night, is when insulin receptor repair happens. It's when inflammatory markers drop. It's when cortisol resets to a healthy baseline. Poor sleep raises cortisol, and elevated cortisol directly raises blood sugar the next morning. So anything that improves your sleep quality is also improving your glucose control. The drinks I'm about to walk you through address one or more of these three controls. That's why they work. That's why the science backs them up. Let's get into them. Drink number 1, warm almond milk with Ceylon cinnamon. I want to start here because this drink is gentle, affordable, and well tolerated by almost everyone. It's also a drink you can prepare tonight with very little effort. Unsweetened almond milk contains only 1 to 2 grams of carbohydrates per cup. Compare that to regular cow's milk, which carries about 12 grams of carbs, and you're already starting in a much better place. But the real power here is magnesium. Almonds are a meaningful source of magnesium, and a cup of unsweetened almond milk provides a gentle dose of this mineral that most adults over 60 are quietly deficient in. After 60, your kidneys don't hold on to magnesium the way they used to. You lose more through your urine, and that loss has consequences. Magnesium plays a direct role in insulin sensitivity. When your cells are low in magnesium, they become more resistant to insulin, meaning glucose has a harder time getting into your cells and out of your bloodstream. A 2022 meta-analysis published in Diabetes Care reviewed 18 separate studies and confirmed that magnesium significantly improved fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity, particularly in older adults who were deficient. Now add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, and I want to emphasize Ceylon specifically, not the cassia cinnamon that's common in most grocery stores. Ceylon cinnamon contains bioactive compounds called cinnamaldehyde and procyanidins. These compounds activate insulin receptors and improve the efficiency of glucose transporters in your cells. A study published in the Annals of Family Medicine found that just 1 gram of cinnamon per day lowered fasting glucose by an average of 18 milligrams per deciliter over 12 weeks. Here's the recipe. 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk, warmed gently, not boiling. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon stirred in. If you'd like a subtle sweetness, a 1/4 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract works beautifully. Drink it 30 to 60 minutes before bed. The cost per serving is roughly 35 cents, less than any supplement you'll find at a health food store. One caution: if you're on blood pressure medications, particularly calcium channel blockers, magnesium can enhance their effect. Start with half a cup and see how you feel. Always loop in your prescribing physician before making this a consistent nightly habit. I know. The moment I say apple cider vinegar, half of you are already skeptical, and the other half are worried about your stomach. Fair on both counts. That's exactly why we pair it with chamomile. Let me explain the science behind each one. Chamomile has been used as a calming sleep aid for centuries, but for people with diabetes, there's a newer layer of research worth knowing about. A 2023 study published in the Nutrition Journal followed 64 adults with type 2 diabetes who drank chamomile tea regularly for 8 weeks. Their HbA1c dropped by an average of 0.52%, and their fasting glucose decreased significantly. The researchers credited a compound called apigenin, a flavonoid found naturally in chamomile that binds to GABA receptors in the brain, promoting calm and deeper sleep while also improving insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. Now, the apple cider vinegar. A landmark study from Arizona State University found that consuming vinegar before bed reduced next morning fasting glucose by 4 to 6% in people with type 2 diabetes. The mechanism is the acetic acid. It slows down the conversion of stored glycogen to glucose in your liver. In other words, it puts a brake on that overnight liver dump we talked about earlier. That's a powerful combination. Chamomile calms the nervous system, deepens sleep, and supports insulin sensitivity. Apple cider vinegar directly suppresses the liver's overnight glucose release. The reason we pair them is practical. Apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach can be harsh, especially after 60, when the valve between your esophagus and stomach loses some of its tightness. Acid reflux becomes more common. Chamomile naturally soothes the stomach lining and acts as an anti-inflammatory buffer, making the combination much gentler. Here's how to prepare it. Brew 1 cup of chamomile tea. Allow it to cool to a warm, comfortable temperature, not hot. Stir in 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Look for the kind that contains what's called the mother, which is the cloudy, fibrous material that signals it's minimally processed. Drink this about 45 minutes before bed. If the taste is too sharp for you at first, a few drops of liquid stevia can soften it considerably. Give it 2 weeks before you judge it. The taste becomes familiar, and the results tend to speak for themselves.
Drink number 3, bone broth with a pinch of sea salt. This one surprises most people. Bone broth before bed feels more like something you'd eat when you're sick than something you'd drink for blood sugar management. But the research is genuinely compelling. Real bone broth, the kind that's been simmered from actual bones for 12 to 24 hours, is rich in an amino acid called glycine. And glycine, as it turns out, is metabolically fascinating. A 2023 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that glycine supplementation before bed improved fasting glucose and significantly reduced oxidative stress markers in older adults with metabolic syndrome. But glycine does something else that makes it particularly valuable at nighttime. It has been shown to lower core body temperature, and that drop in body temperature is one of the key signals your brain uses to enter and maintain deep restorative sleep. So glycine improves your sleep quality and supports your overnight glucose management at the same time. The pinch of sea salt is not just for flavor. This is important. After 60, your body's thirst signals become less reliable. Most adults are mildly dehydrated overnight without even realizing it. When you're dehydrated, your blood becomes more concentrated, and that includes your blood sugar. Glucose readings that appear elevated in the morning are sometimes partly explained by dehydration. A small amount of mineral-rich sea salt in your broth helps your cells hold on to hydration overnight and gives you a more accurate morning reading. Here's what you need. 8 ounces of true bone broth, not boxed broth, not stock from the grocery store shelf. Look for quality brands that specifically use long simmered bones. Warm it gently, add a small pinch of sea salt and a crack of black pepper. The black pepper improves the bioavailability of several compounds in the broth. Drink it 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Per serving, you're looking at roughly 40 calories, less than 1 gram of carbohydrates, and around 9 to 10 grams of protein. That protein content triggers a mild release of GLP-1, the very hormone that high-cost diabetes medications work to mimic, which helps keep your liver in check through the overnight hours. One note of caution: if you have kidney disease or have been advised by your physician to limit protein intake, discuss this one with your doctor before adding it to your routine. For most adults over 60, however, this is one of the most nourishing and gentle things you can offer your body before sleep.
Drink number 4, diluted tart cherry juice. This is the 40-cent drink I mentioned at the beginning, and if you've been spending money on melatonin supplements, this might change your evening routine. Tart cherries are one of the only natural food sources of melatonin, the hormone your brain produces to regulate your sleep-wake cycle. A study out of Louisiana State University found that drinking tart cherry juice twice daily increased sleep time by an average of 84 minutes in older adults who struggled with insomnia. Now here's why that directly connects to blood sugar. As I explained earlier, deep sleep is when your body repairs insulin receptors, lowers cortisol, and clears glucose most efficiently. More and better sleep is directly linked to better fasting glucose numbers. But tart cherries also contain anthocyanins, the deep pigments responsible for their distinctive color. And anthocyanins have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation in the beta cells of the pancreas. Those are the very cells that produce insulin. A 2023 clinical trial published in the journal Nutrients followed 37 adults with metabolic syndrome who consumed tart cherry juice daily for 12 weeks. Their fasting insulin levels dropped, and their HOMA-IR, a clinical measure of insulin resistance, improved by nearly 20%. Now, an important caution. You cannot drink pure tart cherry juice straight and consider it blood sugar friendly. Even unsweetened tart cherry juice contains around 25 grams of natural sugar per cup. That's too much glucose before bed. Here's the correct ratio. 2 tablespoons of 100% pure tart cherry juice, diluted into 8 ounces of cold or room temperature water. That brings your carbohydrate total down to approximately 6 grams, safe for most people managing diabetes, while still delivering a meaningful dose of anthocyanins and natural melatonin. A 40-cent serving that improves your sleep and supports your overnight glucose regulation. That's a remarkable return. Drink number 5, fenugreek seed tea. This is the most powerful drink on this list, and I save it for last because I want it to land with the weight it deserves. Fenugreek is a plant that's been used medicinally in Indian and Middle Eastern traditions for thousands of years. Western research has spent the last decade catching up, and what the studies are finding is significant. Fenugreek seeds contain a specific type of soluble fiber called galactomannan. When you steep fenugreek seeds in hot water, this fiber releases into the liquid and forms a gel-like matrix in your digestive system. That gel slows the breakdown and absorption of carbohydrates from your dinner, delaying the glucose that enters your bloodstream, and that effect can extend well into the overnight hours. A 2024 meta-analysis published in Frontiers in Pharmacology reviewed 12 randomized controlled trials involving over 600 diabetic patients. The conclusion was clear. Fenugreek supplementation lowered fasting blood glucose by an average of 28 milligrams per deciliter. For context, that's a more substantial effect than some pharmaceutical interventions. But fenugreek has a second mechanism that makes it especially safe to use. It contains an amino acid called 4-hydroxyacyleucine, which directly stimulates insulin secretion, but only in the presence of glucose. It doesn't trigger insulin release when glucose levels are already low. That means it won't cause hypoglycemia in the middle of the night. It responds only when it's needed. That kind of precision is why I find this drink so clinically interesting. Here's how to prepare it. 1 teaspoon of whole fenugreek seeds. You can find these at any Indian grocery store, often for around $4 per pound, or online. Add the seeds to 8 ounces of boiling water. Steep for a full 10 minutes. Strain out the seeds. Drink it warm, about 30 to 60 minutes before bed. If the slightly bitter flavor is too much at first, a squeeze of lemon or a drop of stevia blends in well. 2 cautions worth noting. Fenugreek can interact with blood thinners like warfarin, so if you're on anticoagulant therapy, speak with your doctor first. And if you're on insulin, it may enhance its glucose-lowering effect, so monitor your numbers closely, especially in the first week. Some people also notice a faint maple syrup-like odor in their perspiration after a week or so of regular use. This is entirely harmless. It's simply how your body metabolizes certain compounds in the seeds. Now I want to shift gears, because knowing what to drink is only half the picture. Knowing what not to drink, especially when that drink is actively marketed as safe or healthy for diabetics, might be even more important. Warning. Drink. Number 1. Flavored herbal teas with natural flavors. I understand the appeal. You see the words calming, sleepy time, or bedtime blend on the box. No caffeine listed. Sounds ideal, but look at the ingredient panel carefully. Many popular bedtime teas contain a listing that says Natural flavors. That phrase is a regulatory loophole. Under current warning drink. Number 2, commercial golden milk. Turmeric has genuine anti-inflammatory properties. I'm not disputing that. The problem is the pre-made golden milk products sold at grocery stores, health food chains, and coffee shops. A standard 12-ounce serving of commercial golden milk can contain anywhere from 16 to 24 grams of sugar, often listed on the label as coconut sugar, date syrup, or agave nectar, which manufacturers promote as natural sweeteners. But your pancreas doesn't distinguish between the source of the sugar. Glucose is glucose. Whether it came from an organic date or a teaspoon of refined white sugar, the metabolic response is the same. And consuming 20 grams of sugar in liquid form right before lying down for 8 hours is one of the more effective ways to guarantee a poor fasting glucose reading in the morning. If you love golden milk, make it yourself. Unsweetened almond milk, half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, a pinch of black pepper, which significantly improves the bioavailability of turmeric's active compound, curcumin, and a small amount of stevia if you want sweetness. That version is genuinely beneficial. The bottled version at the cafe is not. This is the one that concerns me most, because it targets a population that is actively trying to do the right thing. Several well-known nutritional shakes are marketed specifically for people with diabetes, with claims that they are designed to help manage blood sugar. Read the nutrition label on these products carefully. A standard bottle of these shakes typically contains between 23 and 25 grams of carbohydrates, and buried in the ingredient list, you'll often find maltodextrin. Let me bring everything together into a simple, actionable plan you can start using tonight. Step 1. Choose one drink from the 5 I've described and commit to it consistently for 2 weeks. Don't cycle through them. Pick one and stay with it long enough for your body to respond. Physiological change takes time, and 14 days gives you enough data to evaluate whether it's working for you. Step 2. Timing matters more than most people realize. Drink your chosen beverage 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed, not right as you're lying down, and not with dinner. That specific window allows the compounds to begin working before your liver enters its overnight active phase. Step 3. Check your fasting glucose every morning and write it down. Don't rely on memory. Keep a simple log, a notebook, a phone note, anything that lets you see the trend over 14 days. Your meter is telling you the truth. Track what it says. Step 4. If you have any of the 3 warning drinks in your home right now, flavored teas with natural flavors, commercial golden milk in a carton, or diabetic nutritional shakes in the fridge, I would encourage you to go through your pantry tonight and make room for something better. You now have the information. What you do with it is up to you. And step 5, the most important one, always communicate with your physician or diabetes care team before making significant changes to your evening routine, particularly if you are on insulin or any medication that affects blood sugar. The drinks I've discussed today are meant to support your management plan, not replace it. Let's do a quick recap. The 5 bedtime drinks supported by clinical research for lowering morning fasting glucose are warm almond milk with Ceylon cinnamon,